They say warnings are like whispers in the wind. Some people hear them, most people ignore them. But what happens when a man sees danger coming, tries to sound the alarm, and the very people meant to protect him turn their backs? This is the story of Daniel Carter, a quiet man from a small town who noticed something others didn't. He saw the pieces coming together, a storm forming on the horizon. He went to the police, not once, but several times, desperate to be heard. And yet, they waved him off. Days later, the very nightmare he warned them about unfolded, and it changed the town forever. Daniel wasn't the kind of man who drew attention. He worked as a mechanic in Millbrook, a small community where everybody knew each other's names. Life was slow, simple, and predictable, at least on the surface. But Daniel had a habit. Every evening after work, he would take long walks around town. Some called him paranoid. Others thought he was just restless. The truth? Daniel noticed details most people missed. A broken lock on the back door of the grocery store. A stranger hanging around the playground at odd hours. A van parked too long near the school. At first, it was just little things. But over weeks, he began to see a pattern. Someone was watching the town, and that someone wasn't just passing through. One night, as he walked home under the dim streetlights, Daniel spotted the same van he'd seen before. This time, parked by the community center. The driver sat still, engine running, as if waiting. Daniel's gut twisted. The next morning, Daniel went straight to the police station. He explained everything. The van, the suspicious man, the odd movements around schools and stores. The officer on duty leaned back, unimpressed. "Daniel," he said with a chuckle, "you worry too much. Millbrook is one of the safest towns in the county. Maybe you're just imagining things." Daniel tried again, more insistent this time, but the officer scribbled something in his notebook, nodded, and sent him home. Over the next 2 weeks, Daniel's warnings grew louder. He reported the same van circling schools. He noticed locks being tampered with at the gas station. He even saw strange footprints behind his neighbor's house. Every time, he went back to the police, and every time, they dismissed him. "Look, Dan," one officer finally said, "we've checked it out. There's nothing to worry about. You need to relax." But Daniel couldn't relax, because the signs weren't going away. They were multiplying. One evening, while walking near the elementary school, he spotted something that made his blood run cold. The suspicious van's back doors were slightly open, and inside he could see ropes, duct tape, and black bags. This was no coincidence. Daniel ran home and called the police again, his voice shaking. But when an officer finally arrived an hour later, the van was gone. The police shrugged. "See? Nothing there. You're chasing shadows, Daniel." But Daniel knew better. He started keeping notes, documenting times, places, and descriptions. He even bought a cheap camera to capture photos. But still, no one believed him. And then one Friday night, Millbrook's quiet streets erupted in chaos. It began at the community center during a youth event. Dozens of kids were inside, laughing, playing games, when suddenly the power cut out. Darkness swallowed the building. Outside, that same van pulled up. Several masked men stormed the center, forcing their way inside. Parents screamed. Children cried. Panic spread like wildfire. By the time the police arrived, it was too late. The men had taken hostages. Millbrook, the town that thought itself safe, was now on every news channel. Helicopters circled overhead. SWAT teams lined the streets. Families prayed outside barricades. And in the middle of it all stood Daniel, trembling. He had warned them. He had begged them to listen. But they hadn't. Hours later, After tense negotiations, the standoff ended. The men were captured, the hostages were freed. Miraculously, no one was killed, but the scars ran deep. Children had nightmares for months. Parents couldn't trust their own streets. And the police, they were left red-faced, humiliated, forced to answer the question everyone was asking. Why didn't you listen when you had the chance? In the aftermath, investigators revealed the truth. The men in the van were part of a traveling criminal ring. They had planned the attack for weeks, scouting towns that seemed unprepared, unnoticed. Except one man did notice: Daniel Carter. The man they laughed off as paranoid had been right all along. Reporters swarmed his home. Neighbors apologized for calling him a worrier, and the police chief publicly admitted their mistake. Daniel didn't gloat. He didn't say, "I told you so." He simply looked into the cameras and said, "I spoke up because I cared, not because I wanted attention." If something feels wrong, don't be silent. Don't wait for someone else to act. One voice might save lives. His words stuck with people. Across town, parents became more alert. Schools upgraded their security. Even the police department changed its policies, creating a new system to take civilian tips seriously. Millbrook healed, slowly, but it never forgot, because one man's warning, ignored until it was almost too late, became the lesson that changed everything. And so, remember this: sometimes the quiet voices see what the loudest ones miss. Sometimes the warnings we brush aside are the very ones that matter most. Daniel Carter wasn't a hero because he stopped the attack. He was a hero because he never stopped speaking, even when nobody believed him. Because silence, in the face of danger, is the most dangerous thing of all.